is live.
We're live.
That means we are good to go. Luchansky gets a 2-minute delay of game penalty for being the last one to join here, but heavy hockey, heavy hitters, boys. Let's play with some discipline out there. We got a referee in town that hates us. Keep it on straight.
And now, another version of Straight Off the Pipe with Dash and Durse. Here we go, boys.
Game on. Game on, grab the net, sticks in the middle, episode 27 of Straight Off the Pipe podcast on the Heavy Hockey Network. The cell block bathroom light fixture makes my co-host look like he has a giant halo on his head, but I assure you he is no angel. Mr. Dursa, how are you, my friend?
Oh. I said last week that we were going to run the table this week, and that proved to be not very accurate at all. 1 and 3 coming in to tonight, and I don't know. This team, kind of like us, starts a little late. The best guy, on the Oilers tonight, I thought was number 25, the guy that's missed 6 games, Darnell Nurse. He looked good to me tonight, right from the get-go, had an active stick and, scored a shorthanded goal. It's just something you don't see very often from a defenseman. It was a tough one to watch. Welcome tonight, Stripes there, Mr. Luchansky, which kind of is hard to follow tonight because Dash is wearing stripes, and we got Oilers live with us tonight too. So let's go.
I'm trying to look just like Brett, so people don't know who's who here. We'll kind of confuse people and provide some deception. But Brett, welcome to the show. He's a writer for their HeavyHockey.com, Heavy Hockey's resident chief of officiating. He's also one of the 13 listeners of the Oilerslive Real Life podcast. He's a CCRHL referee, a World's Longest Hockey Game volunteer referee, a Dirty Birds volunteer referee. He's sometimes a volunteer when he's not hungover for the Oilers Cup, soon to have a new name. He's the Nielsen Show Spelling Bee champion. You've officiated my games. We've officiated games together. Ladies and gentlemen, surveyor Brett Luchansky. Give him a follow at BLuchansky on Twitter. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Next up is also our Heavy Hockey Bureau Chief. He's the guy that answers to our silent owner behind the curtain, as I understand it. He's my Huckleberry. He's my handsome Haligonian hunk. And we've seen a lot of each other lately. Have you missed me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're scaring me with the outfit, but of course I did. I wish I had as many letters behind my name as Surveyor Brett, but just the heavy hockey thing, I guess.
No designations.
No designations.
All you've got is this family to be proud of. That's it. That's it. Well, let's start with tonight's game, boys. Let's jump right in. Doc returns, like Dursa said, plays 26 minutes north, scores a goal on shorthanded, nice play, nice shorthanded play, pardon me. Doesn't look like he's missed a step, but I think the Oilers sure missed him, didn't they, Dursa?
Well, with him being out, I thought we fared actually pretty well, better than I was expecting. But I don't know. You get him back in the lineup and you decide to lay an egg. Like I don't understand it. These waltzing our way into a hockey game. Waiting for really something bad to happen before they start going. It's kind of getting old, and Now you kind of hear people wondering, is it Dave Tippett? Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's up to a coach at the NHL level to go into a dressing room, slam the door and start yelling at guys before a game starts. I think professional athletes need to be prepared to play games, and for whatever reason, it just seems like on a lot of nights they come out, like 3-year-old Coke, it's flat as hell.
Yeah, Mike Babcock used to slam doors and kick garbage pails. How'd that work out for him? What did you think of the game today, Michael?
You know what? I disagree, Mike. Look. It is up to the team to come out and get their own energy, but at the same time, the details of the game are purely a coaching thing, and it seems to me like, look, this is gonna make me crazy to no end. But look at the guys to the south of us; they're coming prepared every night. They're playing hard, like hard hockey, and
buy-in.
It's buy-in. It's and you can't tell me that's anything but coaching, because that team there, they don't have the talent the Oilers have, and those guys come out every night and they play hard. I don't think it's leadership on this team, because I don't think you could get two better leaders than McDavid and Draisaitl. So the next thing from that is hey, look. When your preparation for the game is, at what point in the game am I going to stick my lines in the blender and try something new, throw something new at you in the second period?
Yeah.
There's something wrong with your preparation for the game. And I just get more and more critical of Tippett, and I'm not sure he's the guy to get us there.
Well, we got a split decision here, and referee right in between them. If anybody's watching here, just to let you know, Luchansky is the one that's not wearing the referee outfit. I know we look exactly the same because I'm a blind referee right now. I can make that joke really obvious. Brett, these guys have two different opinions on that. What do you think? What do you think, that this is something that the coach can coach out of a team? Or do you think that players are professionals and they just need to get up?
Well, it's definitely has something to do with the coach, because they are professionals, so they're not kids. It's a little different approach for a coach, I would think. I've never coached hockey, but I don't know what it is, but it sure is consistent this season. And I would be curious to know in previous seasons and with different coaches, if it was do they have the same track record or not?
Yeah, it's certainly a pattern, and it's certainly a bad habit that we've created. Another slow start, another game where they're chasing it, if you will, so to speak. In addition, they've now been out hit, I think, in 8 of the last 10 games. And one of the games we out hit our opponents was that Sabres bore fest. And honestly, the hits were 8-6 for the Oilers about a month ago. Boys, do you think that we can sustain these bad habits and expect playoff success? Michael, what do you think?
No, there's no way you're going to have playoff success playing like this, right? I think that this team, I think Brett Luchansky could coach this team to the playoffs.
Boom.
That
takes on.
Yeah, and he's
Hernan, are you listening?
Yeah, no doubt. This team's got enough talent to get there on their own, right? Like, they're playing with the second and third string goalie. They played without. They went 4-2 with none of their top defensemen. They're playing their bottom pair as their top pair. This team's going to make the playoffs. There's no denying that. Will the team get anywhere in the playoffs? Not like this. No, you got to come out and play. In fact, I know at some point tonight we're going to talk about McDavid's hit from behind. Look, I'll be honest. I could give a shit, because by that point in the game was over, right? Like that. Yeah, sure. I'd be more pissed off if it was if we were in this game in the first 5 or 10 minutes. I think it was 10 minutes before we even got a shot on net. So that's what I think. There's no way we're going. Familiar. We're not. I've been arguing on my show forever that this team's not getting any respect. Now they're just making an ass out of those comments for like they don't deserve it right now. They every night same thing, and they're scoring their way out of holes. They're not going to be able to do that come playoff time.
For sure. Hey, look, Durst, you brought up the bad habits in your opening comments. So, how do you feel about our chances of being able to be taken seriously in the postseason, playing in games where we can't seem to get it going? We can't score the first goal, and we might not be able to outscore our mistakes.
So today is my son's birthday, December 5th, and this is the first opportunity we have to talk about a 2-game losing streak. That in itself, I think, is a little bit of a victory for this team. They don't seem to want to, let bad habits extend for a period of time, but then they go on a bit of a roll, and then they get into this, just kind of ho-hum kind of game all the time. And that's been a bit of a pattern. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The hallmark of a really good team and a team that can win the Stanley Cup is a team that doesn't lose 2 games in a row very often during a season. So this is our first one. If we're into, February and March before we hit our next 2-game losing streak, I think we've got something here. But you kind of got to get out of this, having to get smacked in the mouth, or like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get, punched in the face kind of hockey. Like, be the one to throw that punch, and then dominate. Like, I almost think we've got too much talent, and they know it. So they're not imposing their will on other teams. And you can point to the coach for that, but I still think it's a bit on the guys in the room. They gotta want to just come out and impose their will. Like, I don't think it's an X and O thing. Yeah, okay, like Stauffer said, start McDavid every night, and I got to agree with him. You got the best player in the world. Make the other coach react to that, sure. But beyond that, I mean, the guys that are out there, it's taking more than the first shift for us to get into the game. It's almost like the second or late in the third before, or like 18 minutes into the third before they decide, hey, let's try to win this game. And some nights they overcome it just because of how talented and skilled they are, and a power play goal here and there. But when you get up against good teams, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, a power play here and there, a power play goal here and there might be giving it a bit of disrespect. It's power play mania.
Yeah.
That said, I can't imagine Brett's going to disagree with any of us here. I think that this is something that doesn't carry well into the playoffs, as well as into an 82-game season. The catch-22 to all of this for me is that the Oilers have proven time and time again that they're a team that plays incredibly better when they have a lead and when they have their foot on the throat of the opponents, because then that's when that other team is trying to scramble and catch up. And that's when you make mistakes, and that's when you take risks, and that's when they take penalties. And when we're chasing the game, and it's not only working against ourselves, it's shooting ourselves right in the foot. So that said, I'm sure you don't disagree, Brett. Do you think that the, playoff referee calling and penalties that we'll see come playoff time, how's that going to affect the way that we're playing right now?
Well, as you know, in the playoffs, it's a completely different game, whether you like it or not. I don't think that's changing this year. I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
Ever.
I mean, just look at, they had their general manager meetings after last year, and the 32 teams or 31 teams at the time, they all came out of those meetings with not much to say. Like, that's how the owners and the GMs like the game called, I guess. I mean, they came out with their little cross-checking video that they were going to crack down on, and I don't even know if we saw that past October. So yeah, once you get in the playoffs, I mean, I think it's Jason Gregor. He did dive into the numbers. You get about the same amount of chances, but there's just a lot more that's let go. There's a lot more infractions that are not called. And so it seems like there's nothing called. And I don't think that's going to change. So I don't know if you can really rely on your power play. I mean, look at Washington. They were President's Choice winners or President's Cup winners, like how many times in a row, like first place in the league in regular season, and could never get over that hump in the playoffs. And that's the one thing about NHL is it's like you need two different teams. You need one team to win the regular season, and then you need the same guys on your team to be able to kind of change and play differently in the playoffs. And last year in Winnipeg, the Oilers kind of saw that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're going to have to try to figure this out. There's no doubt about it. We've got a 14-day and 6-game homestand. There's no travel. We've got a lot of time to practice. What do the Oilers have to do in the next week to try to get this figured out, Brent?
Oh, I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. I'm just a ref.
Yeah,
What do you think,
truest thing he's ever said.
Stop. There you are. You're giving him compliments again, Michael. Shush. We said we weren't going to do that.
I'll be clipping that one later. I need to re-up my clips from last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. Dursa, what do you think they got to do to get this switched up, buddy? They got to iron out this wrinkle. They've got to fix a bad habit. They've got to go to rehab. What's going on?
You know, there's been a cycle of these slow starts. It's going back a ways here.
Oh, yeah. I'd say all year, to be honest, man. You know, you go way back and they had bad starts against Calgary and Arizona the first times they played them. They've maybe had 3 or 4 good starts all year, and I bet you they've had one game all year where they played 60 minutes, and that was when they beat Vancouver 2-1. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I almost wonder if they need to go beyond, what they have in the organization right now and almost bring in a sports psychologist to talk to them about their starts.
I don't think you're crazy, bro.
Well, thank you.
Well, for that one comment.
This time.
Anyway.
This time. Well, thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Michael. Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, Dursa, you're a tire fire, hot garbage most of the time. But this time I'll agree with you.
Listen, I was thinking tonight, they're missing guys on the back end still. And the guys that they brought up have filled in fairly well. But I don't know. A couple of games seeing Barry and Russell together, it was painful. It was painful. And, the pairs tonight I thought were a little bit better that way. It wasn't so awful. I really like what I see out of this Niemelainen kid. It's like we're watching Brian Marchman all over again without the kneeing. He loves to get involved in the big hit, or maybe more Jason Smith with size, but he loves to lay out the body. I've liked what I've seen out of Broberg, but if you add up these guys that we've brought up and tabulate their NHL games, it's not very many. So there's a couple of guys still out of the lineup that I think they can use, and it'll help.
Michael, they bring in a sports psychologist. What else do they do?
Yeah, I don't know if sports psychologist is necessary. Of course, they've all talked to one at one point in their careers, I suspect, and they all know what's at stake. They got to be prepared, right? They got to be prepared for every team. They've got to understand, they've seen enough teams come in and play a style against McDavid and Draisaitl that, squashes their game a little bit, right? Like, they have to have an answer for all of that. And I'm go right out there. I don't think Tippett's the guy to lead these guys to the promised land. Like, short of getting rid of him, they have to be prepared. Strudwick said it in the intermission. You got to look after the details. This team's got to go back to square one and look after the details. It can't be about blending the lines and throwing them in a blender every game when things aren't going your way. Like, things have got to go your way out of the gate, right? Like, we're losing games off the puck drop, the games that we've lost.
2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
2.5 minutes in tonight, they went to the blender.
Yeah. It just to me reeks of not being prepared for another team and understanding. And being prepared for another team means, all sorts of things. Like, it means, scouting the players, understanding how those players are going to play against your top line, right? And understanding the little things, watching the nuances of their game. LA came in, they knew what they needed to do off the hop. Stauffer's right. You got to put McDavid out there to start a game, especially if you're having trouble starting like that. Put McDavid in. If you want to change the lines up once, start McDavid and Draisaitl every single game, right? That's the one time you do that. Get that line out there. And Cassian, yeah, maybe, or some type of energy guy, right? But hey, tonight, there's one good thing out of tonight, and it was the play of Ryan McLeod and Darnell Nurse. Like, McLeod looked amazing. I thought Fogle had a good game. this was one of those games where there were a couple of stars on the Oilers that I thought did really well, but then there's still some areas of. But hey, look, all of that said, and we're playing without most of our top defense, and we're not playing with our number one goalie. But I do think this lineup is one of the best we've had in oil country in a long time. I'd just like to see more out of them.
You bring up a good point though, Michael. It almost seems like they go to McDavid and Draisaitl as a reactionary move instead of proactive. They don't start that. They don't start to push for a lead. They go to that when they're trailing. Why not put the other team on their heels and then go back to regular lines instead of being reactionary with it. Be proactive.
Yeah, just change it up. Obviously, what you're doing is not working.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've got mixed feelings on Tippett. I do think he's a good coach. I think that he's actually done okay with his blender this year. I think he's got players off the schneid with some of his decisions, and he's been able to push the third line's buttons from time to time to get them going. I think his work with the special teams, and you got to give some credit to the assistant coaches as well on this, but the special teams are epic. I think his goaltending decisions has been okay given the cards he's been dealt, and I think he's also called a few timeouts this year, which was nice. That said, I'm on Michael's side when it comes to this. This has to be more than just a player's thing. There's something happening here, and whether Koskinen's pensions for poor starts over the last 4 years or his entire contract, you guys, has kind of ingrained that into our team's DNA, where we almost have this slow start with the expectation our goalie might let us down. I don't know. That's just me spitballing. But what I do know for sure is that no NHL team plays for 82 games in a season. Nobody goes out and plays 60 minutes for 82 games. Nobody. Not in the history of hockey has that ever happened. But what the Oilers got to fucking figure out how to do, men, is win the ones that matter and get up for them and just play good enough to beat the bad teams. But you can't. They seem to empty their tank down to a 2 out of 10, or, you play the Coyotes at a 5 or a 4. That's fine. Like, get the win. Don't play Seattle at a 2. Get your ass outworked and expect to win. It's driving me nuts to see this, you guys, because it's a pattern. It's like, we don't need Nostradamus here. You just need to turn on your fucking remote control. Like, it's going to happen. Like the sun sets in the west and taxes and death. It's crazy to me. So, Hebert said that we played really well without our top defense recently. Durst said that I thought the guys really brought it, that they brought in. I thought we did excellent to come out of this little bit of a spurt with a Darnell Nurse injury with the record we did, fellas. Markus Niemelainen, 7 blocks and 16 hits in 3 games, finds himself still in the lineup after Darnell Nurse is back in. Clearly earned a spot outside of, is he leapfrog Lagesson? Has he? I just think that says a lot about his play. What have you thought about his play, Mr. Hebert?
Yeah, I mean, we've needed that kind of a big hulking defenseman in a long time. They must have showed that Brown hit about 10 times.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, you
better guy to fall on his ass.
Yeah, exactly. It was great, right? Like, it just
Kessler.
It's fun to watch, and a lot was made of losing Larson in the off season and needing a big guy on the back. You want those tough guys, right? You want those guys that are just hard to play against for whatever limited minutes they play, right? And you're not going to get that from a Barry or a Russell, that's for sure. And Bouchard, that's not necessarily his style of game. He's got other attributes that make him a worthwhile defenseman. So Niemelainen fits that area just great. He's doing well, and hell yeah, he's earned a spot, which is, as we know, we'll go back to Tippett, is a hard thing to do as a rookie, right?
Yeah, Yeah. And that's maybe the most impressive thing at all. I think a smart man once told me when I was a guest on his podcast that a rookie jumps down 4 rungs on the trust tree ladder when he makes a mistake, but a veteran barely goes up 1 or 2 when he makes a mistake.
Must have been Connor Halley's podcast, hey?
It was somebody intelligent that I was talking to. And he's right, this guy, whoever he is. Durst, what do you think?
I want to touch on your comment there about the Kraken game. I thought we actually played a pretty good third period, but ran out of time because we didn't start in the first period. And that's going to happen, whether it's a team at the bottom of the Pacific or the one at the top right now, I guess.
Yeah, they got outworked by the Kraken, though, man. They got outworked even worse by the Penguins the night before. 45-15 were the hits in the Penguins game.
Well, I don't, the hits total can be a bit deceiving because sometimes if you have the puck a lot.
Except when they're 300% higher.
Yeah, you're not laying out checks because you have the puck, but that wasn't the case in that Pens game because they had the puck and they had it because they were creaming us. But I like Niemelainen, and I think he's a throwback player, to days gone by, because a lot of nights you go to an NHL game and you're hard pressed to see a good body check, and he's throwing a few every game, and that's one guy. If everybody else the guys on the third and fourth line would take a page out of his book, we'd have something. And that's the thing that bothers me too. Not so much tonight, but the last game there, I saw the third line, have one good shift in a game, where they were setting a physical tone. That's not going to get it done.
They struggled tonight too.
Unless you're putting pucks in the net, but they haven't been doing that either. So if you're not scoring, do the thing you can do and play physical.
Yeah, for sure.
Sportsnet has the hits as 28-16 in favor of the Oilers. Does that tell the story tonight?
It was tonight. Hey, I actually forgot to look at hits tonight. That's interesting. Yeah, it seemed like a more physical game.
How many did they count for McDavid there, though?
They gave him 5 just for that boarding. Yeah, for sure. And I think there was 4 hits from Nurse, 4 hits from Niemelainen, 4 hits from Russell. It was spread around a little bit today. Hebert mentioned the Russell and Barry combination. Man, they're like the only thing they proved to me in the last 2 games is they'd be fantastic at hot potato. I have no trust in those 2 whatsoever. It's maybe the best news that Darnell's coming back is that those 2 don't have to be that veteran pair anymore. Brett, did you have a chance to see Niemelainen play over the last 3 games?
Well, I saw the big hit that you're talking about where the guy got some air there. And I've seen some clips of him from Bakersfield. So he does seem like he's a guy that throws the body around, which I don't know. We don't have too many of those guys these days, league-wide, but Oilers especially, seems like their team toughness takes a beating if one guy's out of the lineup, like Nurse is gone. So it's nice to have a young guy like that if he can keep it up.
Yeah, Brett makes a good point about that unique skill. And I think that we're also benefit and having Sam Rukov play for Bakersfield as well. They're both a throwback defensemen that are able to play with a little bit of nastiness and a little bit of grit and a little bit of gator in their game. You boys know what I mean? Does that give either one of those 2 guys a leg up or a better chance to make this team, or do they jump the depth charts a bit because of this, Durst?
I think, when CP and Keith get back, then a couple of guys are going to go back to the farm. But I think it might be something that gets revisited as, closer to the playoffs, get them a few more games and, have them as a 7th defenseman. I think we need that size and that physicality. I really think like teams that are going to go on long runs are going to have a mix of puck movers and guys that can make you pay and hurt after a game. And on most nights, Nurse is really that only guy. So,
what do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I Nurse is right. I mean, Nurse is usually the only guy that's doing that, and this is a really tough stretch, right? And as upset as I am about tonight's game, it's not, this is not the healthy team, but and so we're, we got to be happy with what we're getting out of them, but they got to be tougher all around. I want to see this team fully healthy, for a little bit of a stretch and see how they play and see what comes out. Losing Nurse when we did, and then losing CC and Keith right after, and even Cuckoo for that matter is a big loss, right? Like, he's just such a solid guy. I honestly think, you can't take Barry out of the lineup because he's, you pay him too much, right? Like, and Larson's I thought played better a couple nights ago than Barry did. But if you got to sit one of those two. You can't have those two in the lineup every night. Like, it's too. There's just not enough strength back there on D. Like, watching Larson get walked today on the boards like that, like, just kind of squashed out.
Russell, you mean?
What's that?
Russell, you mean? Chris
yeah,
Russell?
yeah. And oh man, like, that just hurts to watch, right? Like, that's not. And you know what? I'm a big Russell fan, but I think I'm a bigger Russell.
Are you?
I'm a Russell fan when he's only playing like limited. Limited.
You're a
games.
Russell fan when he's a healthy scratch. Who are you trying to kid right now?
That's right. That's right. No, I like him once, like, if he comes in every few games or whatever, right? And he brings a new dynamic sometimes, but he's got to be playing third line D. Yeah. You just can't have him you can't have him playing lots of minutes against top guys.
Look, I thought it was pretty crazy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Durst.
Pairing with Barry, just that doesn't work.
No.
Well, let's be honest. Anytime Barry's not in the offensive end, it's hard to make it work. And with that said, the last game ends. It's a 1-goal game. Bouchard has been involved in a goal, an assist, a primary assist at that. He was +2 last game. He'd showed very well all game. Barry was a -3. I thought he looked terribly confused and overwhelmed most of the night. Bouchard has more points than Barry. Barry's played 4 times as much power play time as Bouchard this year. When you look at their even strength scoring per 60, we're looking at Bouchard with almost a 1.6 and Barry has a 1.17, which is still respectable. Let's be honest, guys. Any defenseman with over a 1 and their points per 60 even strength is still okay. But why the hell did Tippett have Barry on the ice to finish the game? Michael?
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, this just goes back to this whole Tippett thing. I just don't understand the moves that he makes. He's probably one of the more stubborn coaches in the league, right? Like, he.
Do you remember Todd McClelland?
Well, yeah. No, I'll give you that. Todd's Todd's pretty stubborn too, and I used to say the same thing about him. Welcome back, Brett, by the way. I don't know why he put Barry in there. Bouchard's been playing well. I'll give Tippett some credit. He moved Bouchard up to the top D pair quite a bit this year, which I think is warranted. I don't know. Hey, we got Jay on YouTube asking if anybody saw Alan Walsh's tweets complaining about Tippett. Anybody see that yet? I'm gonna look that up.
No, I missed that.
Okay. Anyway, I don't get it. I honestly do not get how he could do that at all with Barry instead of Bouchard, especially in a game like that. Like, how big is that game, right? Like, when it would have meant a lot to this team. Every game means a lot, but we're a long ways away from not making the playoffs. We've got room to improve, which is nice to be be where we're at and have as much room to improve as we do is pretty awesome. Guys, I don't have a lot of belief that Tippett's going to be the guy to get us there. And if he does, I'm going to say he's not doing it. It's the team. Maybe to Dursa's point, it's the guys playing that will be the guys that get us there.
I think he's a better regular season coach than playoff coach. What do you think, Durs?
I'm in my school of thought right now is that we are better prepared for the playoffs than we've been for a long time. And if he can't at least if he can't at least get around under his belt, they need to try somebody else. I'm in that kind of baseball mentality mode right now where it's 3 strikes and you're out. I think Chicago, that play-in series, they tipped a lot of pucks in the net. And I don't think that's all fluke. I think that's by design, and they won a lot of face-offs and tipped a lot of pucks in the net. I think in the Winnipeg series, our depth kind of got exposed, but I think we're a deeper team now with the additions, of Hyman and Fogle, a young McLeod up front. Jesse Pugliarvi's transitioned from a boy into a man. So you don't always have to put Leon and Connor together. If you do that, you've got some other players that can play behind them. So I think he's better equipped to win a playoff series now. So for me, he doesn't have any excuses anymore. I would have liked to see, like we talked about in the summer, I would have liked to see an upgrade in net, and maybe there still will be one at the deadline. I know Mikko's record, everybody points to his record, but there are things in that guy's game that do scare me. Like tonight, the second goal, I didn't like that. He got beat across his body again, far side, and to me that's a goal that is borderline. And there's been a lot of these kind of borderline goals. Before it was always you go Mikko's glove and that's a goal, and now there's been a new thing that's crept in is these shots across his body and shots 5-hole that are beating him like seemingly on the regular. There are nights where he stands on his head and he gives this team a chance to win, but he hasn't had a shutout. So can we really say he stole a game, or he's played pretty well? I think he almost gets a bump to he stole games when he plays pretty well, and I don't know. So I still think that I'm in the George Larac school of thought right now, where we do need a big money goalie for when it gets into the playoffs. I think that's really the thing. I mean, Smith played pretty well last year against Winnipeg, but Hallebuck was a little bit better. And Winnipeg has a little bit more depth last year than we do. Now I don't think we can say that anymore. So for me now, it's okay, Dave Tippett, beat a team in the playoffs. Go on a run now, because you've got the horses to make it happen. So make it happen. If you can't do that, bye-bye. That's where I'm at.
All right. Look, I love your 27 George Larac reference, given we're rocking episode 27 right now. I agree with the one thing there, and that's about it, bro. You know what? Does he have more bullets in his gun? Does he have more tools in his toolbox this year? I think he does. Forward wise, in the top 9 and the top 12, I don't think Holland equipped him very well on the back end at all for the playoffs, nor do I think he equipped him well with goaltending in the playoffs. And I'm not sure that Tippett is our coach for the playoffs. Hey, I'm not negative Nelly. I'm not Debbie Downer. I love our start. I know we're making the playoffs, and God damn it, I'm going to bleed orange when it happens, boys. But I have my hesitations right now, because I think that there's some postseason trends that our bad habits don't lean well towards. Brett, where do you think we're at in terms of not only just the coaching, but where we are on the back end in order to make a deep playoff run so that we can call this season a success? Welcome back, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. My basement Wi-Fi is crapping out. I don't know if Tippett's the guy for the playoffs, but there's no way he's getting fired or anything if your team's 16-6 and you're going all the way into the playoffs. Like, there's just not going to happen. There's no chance, 0%. So I don't know, but maybe after how many failed playoff attempts does it take to fire a coach? Like, I don't know. You'd have to look at Washington and all those teams that were really good and never could get across the hump. How long do they stick with their guy until they finally change? It's got to be really hard to fire a guy who gets you to the playoffs so many years in a row. Like, not saying Tippett's done it yet with the Oilers, but like pulling from Washington or something. Like, if a guy like, was it Trotz or Boudreau that was there for the longest time that made it like 10 years in a row? Like, it's pretty hard to get rid of a guy that gets you there, even though the ultimate goal is the Stanley Cup.
I think you can get rid of him if he doesn't win a series this year. Like, if he doesn't make it past the first round, he'll be shown the door pretty darn quick.
You can, but you guys are nuts if you think this is happening.
No, there's nobody.
Getting,
no, they're
we
not.
We could get swept in the first round, and he's not getting fired. There's not a chance. He's right in Holland's hip pocket. No way, man. Holland gives him decision-making ability, Michael. He gives McDavid and Tippett all the say in who he wants. He's got Duncan Keith on our fucking team because of this.
Yeah,
he's in. They're in it as a.
I don't think Tippett's gone anywhere in the season. As long as this team makes the playoff, Tippett stays. But if he doesn't make it past the first round, I think Holland has no choice. That's my thought. I mean,
every GM gets two coaches, and this will not be time yet for Holland's second coach.
Yeah,
I'm with Brett there.
Well, I disagree with you there. I think he's going to get the Doug Collins treatment that the Chicago Bulls gave to Doug Collins after he lost in the first round, and they brought in Phil Jackson, a guy that took the Bulls to championships. I think that's what's going to happen. You cannot waste more time with Connor and Leon, and he's got to win now. It's a win now. He's got horses in the stable. If he can't do anything with it, bye-bye. See ya. He's out.
It's a win now. I hope so. There's no way, dude. Holland was trying to get himself goaltending for the beginning of the last two seasons. He wanted Markstrom. He missed out. He wanted Grubauer. He missed out. He sees the gap that we have. He was handcuffed. He had no choice but to go into this season with Koskinen and Smith. He had no choice. I don't think he thinks he's going to a Stanley Cup final with Koskinen and Smith.
I don't think the Stanley Cup final though is where Tippett. I think if Tippett doesn't get past the first round, we see him out. And now, if he makes it to the second round and it's competitive, maybe he buys himself a little bit more time. But if it's a piss poor showing in the first round again, I think he's gone.
I think Holland thinks that he still needs to put the proper tools in his box, and it is a goaltender. And it is a little bit of jig that still needs to come onto this team that Holland could not pull off this offseason, that I think he is priming this team for our run next year. There is no chance whatsoever if we lose in the playoffs that Tippett loses his job. He gets next year for sure. I'll shave my head if not.
He was a higher ranked seed than Winnipeg last year, got swept. If they go out in the first round again with what they have assembled right now, if he survives that, I don't know.
Maybe Holland's gone with him then.
I know that the playoff bubble was a different animal altogether, but don't forget that Chicago series too. He kind of got out-coached in that one too.
At least there
kind of got out-coached. He got out-coached by the youngest coach in the NHL, hands down.
Oh yeah,
and that coach is done now, but. We won a game against Chicago. We didn't win anything against Winnipeg.
Oh, according to you, we went 6 games versus the Jets, Nurse.
I'm just trying to make people feel a little better about themselves.
It's hard.
Ladies and gentlemen, at Mike Durst on Twitter, give him a follow. He loves to make you feel better about yourself.
It's hard to put a lot of hate on that Chicago one because it was such a messed up.
It is. Yep.
Stop and
it's
then
a different
months
situation.
off and then a restart and then a exhibition game and then a playoff series. It's not.
Clefbaum doesn't want to be there. They got to drag him there with a forklift. Koskinen doesn't want to be there. You're totally right, Brett.
And we got schooled by a lot of pucks tipped in, absolutely schooled there. But
if you ask Connor McDavid, we got schooled by Duncan Keith, and then that's why he's on our team now.
Well, Keith did have a good series there, but their forwards schooled us with tipping pucks. And I honestly, what was it? There was a game like a couple weeks back that kind of the same thing was going on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, boys, I don't know if you want to take a couple of minutes of break and maybe calm down. I'm starting to sweat because Dursa pisses me off. But when we come back
talk about the major check from behind.
Yeah, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back in a couple of minutes and focus just on you, my friend. There's gonna be some referee centric questions. We're gonna talk about the major. We're gonna talk about the bite. We're gonna talk about your article on heavyhockey.com. But go grab a water and we'll reconvene in 30 seconds.
He's got a closed-in, nice little room, not like me.
That's true. Yeah, I can see your tuck tape and your.
Mics are hot. Chad Graham on Facebook says, when does the elephant get talked about? Canadian team and Bettman's USA.
Is that the elephant?
Jay says, Babcock is in if they go out first round. He's waiting. Chad Graham says, anyone saying Mikko is to blame tonight needs to rescind being a fucking hockey fan. I by the way, I responded to Chad. We're live again, guys. I responded to Chad by saying, you've got 19 tattooed on your ass, Chad, which is true. The boy
Chad Graham, straight off the pipe, biggest fan of Mikko Koskinen and biggest fan of Dustin Schwartz. For everybody that's out there listening, let me just repeat that. Chad Graham, biggest fan of Dustin Schwartz in the world. And that's probably going to get some comments fired up on the Twitter machine there. So I'll wait for Michael to get to those. Go ahead, Chad. I know you'll be shaking. You'll be so angry that I said that. We ended off the first part and we're going to get into part two here straight off the pipe. Episode 27, honor to Dave Semenko, George Larocque. We had a George Larocque reference dropped earlier. Brett Lachansky, who is your favorite Oiler 27 and what is your favorite number 27 moment for the Oilers?
George Larocque 27 and him sniping, deking out Sean Bell and sniping in a Hockey Helps the Homeless tournament that I refed.
Nice. Love it.
He's got a good shot for a big man. It's amazing. You see those guys playing in the NHL, the big guys, and they don't look all that strong compared to their competition. But when you see them just playing regular hockey with regular dudes, they can shoot the puck harder than anyone out there and still skate and still get around. So it's pretty cool.
There's no doubt about that. I'm from Saskatchewan and near my hometown in Wynyard is Porcupine Plain, which is the home of Lyle Odlin. And we used to play in the summers on ice in Nacum. And man, Lyle Odlin could dump a pail of pucks at the red line and hit the crossbar with 15 of them in a row. And that's, the staple definition of a stay-at-home defenseman who could barely, get 3 goals a year in the NHL. So to your point, yeah, no doubt about it. You can make the NHL and you're one of the best 750 hockey players in the world. Trust me, whether you're throwing fists or not, it's a very tough league to make. If you're there, you're a good hockey player. Michael Hebert, who's your favorite 27 and what's your favorite moment?
You gotta love George Laraque, obviously, but a guy whose jersey probably won't ever be retired and should be for all sorts of reasons, Mr. Dave Semenko. I mean, that guy. How many times you saw him, getting his head punched and doing whatever he could to protect our great one there when he had the chance, and then just to hear the stories just about how good of a guy he was off ice, and in fact, I used to work at the Palladium Club, which is a pool hall downtown on Jasper Ave once upon a time. And Semenko used to come in all the time, and he was, just a great human being, and built like a tree trunk. My favorite memory of him, and I wish I was just a kid, so I don't, remember what player it was, and it was against Calgary, and there was a point in Semenko's career where he said he wasn't going to fight anymore, but it was like a brief sort of stint. And it was a line brawl. Probably somebody like Bruce McCurdy or Alan Lowe could tell me exactly who it was. They'd probably have it tucked away there in the back of their head somewhere. But it was all
doesn't forget it.
Yeah. It was a line brawl, and Semenko, some Calgary Flames player, jumped on Semenko's back and was just like pounding him on the head, and Semenko was like skating away like, you little fly, get off of me, right? Like he didn't give a shit who it was.
Who let the mosquito into Rexall?
Exactly. Yeah, it was absolutely unreal, and absolutely love the guy. Rest in peace, Mr. Semenko, for sure.
Rest in peace, big Smanker. There's probably nobody that you could call Mr. Oiler other than maybe Kevin Lowe or Joey Moss that would wear that badge with pride more than Dave Semenko. There's a reason he was the ambassador for the Oilers, till the day he passed. And I would agree. That's my favorite 27, hands down. What about you, Durst?
Nobody's going Dustin Penner, Durst? You going Dustin
Penner?
Yeah,
probably.
Well, I think it'd be a Dustin Penner memory that I
have. Or Boyd Gordon.
This whole 27 talk, I'm just realizing now that Scott Mellenby wore number 27 for 1 year. Penner, so I was at an Oilers Stars game, and in that game, Hemsky got kind of creamed. So Penner picked up the guy from Dallas, I don't know who it was, grabbed him with his left hand, put him up in the air, and hit him with the right, and the guy was knocked out, one punch. And the same game, Penner came down on the right side, was busting in, and Marty Turco was in net, and Penner just put it in a nice little, square right over Penner or Turco's shoulder from pretty much a Draisaitl-esque angle, and he was assist away from the Gordie Howe hat trick. So I've got one good memory of Dustin Penner as an Oiler that I saw live.
Well, and you're his biggest follower on Twitter, I imagine.
I am. Yeah.
I mean, Dirt.
Who's your guy, Durst?
Who's your favorite 27, buddy?
I would have to say Laraque, just because of the kind of a couple of personal interactions with him. He signed autograph for my son at Ernie's the same time that Strudwick and Dean McCammon did, and he's a funny guy. We've had him on the like with Michael before, and I really like George. He's a great guy. Semenko is a legend. And thinking of this, I'm wondering also, like, it seemed like every tough guy that we had wore 27, legendary. What number did Dave Brown wear?
15. Michael
Dave
can fact check us there.
Dave Brown. That's a good question. No, it wasn't 15.
I mean, it wouldn't have
I
been
thought-
27 because Semenko was there wearing it already, right?
Yeah.
I know I said Rexall earlier. I guess it was Northlands, actually. Michael's looking at that, kind of transition a little bit. Brett, you've been roughing in Edmonton Beer League hockey for the better part of 10 years now. How many Edmonton Beer League teams' toughest guy wear 27 in Edmonton?
I think they all wear 69 in beer league.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, Brett, what's your favorite beer league story with a guy wearing 27 or 69?
Oh, how about one where the guy had to get thrown out for throwing his stick at his own teammate on his bench like a javelin?
It's not a bad one. I remember I played a game in River Cree Hockey League one time about 10 years ago where I got into a little bit of a Billy Smith type of stick battle with the goalie, and as the whistle blew, he covered the puck, and as I skated to my bench and got there, I realized he was 2 feet behind me, followed me to the bench, jumped onto our bench, and started swinging his blocker and his glove around and hitting anybody he could like a helicopter, and he got suspended for 99 games. It was awesome.
99 indefinite.
99 games.
Yeah, 99 games. So we've got Brett on to talk some referee. Hey, welcome to Heavy Hockey, buddy. Welcome to Straight Off the Pipe. It's an honor to have you. We love to, reference you every time that there's a questionable play on the podcast. Lars jumps in and he's got Howie Meeker on his iPad. He's stopping plays. What would Luchansky think about this? So we're lucky enough to have you. Looks like Durst is licking his lips and wants to ask you something, so I'll let him jump in.
Yeah, well, 6 minutes and change to go in the game tonight. Connor hit Kemp from LA. They called it boarding. To me, it wasn't.
Are you talking about the major penalty on the dirtiest player of the game?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to clarify that for the listeners.
Okay,
Isn't he a repeat offender?
Let me go here.
Now?
So it wasn't textbook boarding. He kind of hit him from the side, and Kemp's head kind of right into the boards, and kind of got a cut, I think, below his eye. They gave Connor 5 in a game, and the part of this that kind of bothers me a little bit, I guess it's kind of that old school mentality that I have, is if you're going to throw a guy out of the game, for a boarding call. In my head, that other player should be kind of, being helped to the room. If you're going to give him a 5-minute major for boarding, I almost feel like there should be an injury on the play. Of course, that wasn't the case. Kemp scored first goal for LA, and he was out on their first unit right off the bat. Didn't go to the room, didn't go into concussion protocol, none of that. So he wasn't really injured. So, because there's blood, then you give him the 5. It wasn't an injury. It was just a little bit of blood. So I don't know. Connor gets his share of abuses night in, night out that don't get called. He's cross-checked from behind into the goal post after scoring. No penalty on the play. But yet we're going to, give him 5 in a game. We're not protecting our stars. We're punishing them. What do you think?
My favorite part of your blowout there was when you tested your cell block wall with your head.
Right.
Solitary confinement, people. Solitary confinement. That boy's going nowhere. All right. All right. I'm going to give Luchansky last word on this one. So, earlier tonight, the dirtiest player in the league took a boarding call. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's definitely a penalty. There's no doubt about it. Right. And I honestly, I don't even have a problem with them giving 5 minutes in a game for that if it's consistent. But that's the problem I have with it. It's not consistent in this league. We see that all the time. We see guys like Subban get, he's on his 20th slew foot of the year. And, it's cost him
21st.
It's cost him a grand total of $15,000 or something. Like he gets paid more per game, to do that. So that's the problem I have. It's just about consistency, and that's always kind of been the problem. Is that a penalty? Hell yeah, that's a penalty. Is it major? Yeah, I'd probably be if it was, against anybody else. If it was against an Oiler, I'd probably be saying, yeah, that should be 5 minutes. The guy's left, with bloody face. He looks like he's going to be screaming red rum, though, after with that smile on his face when he realizes who hit him from behind. But, look, it's just consistency that bugs me. Honestly, by that point in the game, I was watching. I always watch straight to the end, but to me, it didn't make any bearing on the game itself. Just the only thing that pisses me off is the consistency in the league in terms of and how they dole out those penalties. And it does seem look like is it because it's Connor McDavid? Like that's the only thing I see, right? Like you got, that's a guy that never, he just doesn't do that. He doesn't play like that. I think it's clear to me when I watch the replay, and maybe it's not that clear. Maybe it's the homer in me, but it's clear to me that he's not trying to put the guy through there's no intent for him to, leave the guy with a bloody face, right? Like Connor McDavid could move fast enough that he could do a hell of a lot more damage if he wanted to. And, he didn't. So I don't know. I mean, whatever. It's just lack of consistency in my mind.
Brett, last word. Go ahead, Durs.
Yeah, it wasn't textbook hit from behind. It was kind of, he caught his shoulder, and his shoulder kind of swung his momentum.
Yeah, it's still a penalty, though, right?
Yeah. No argument on that.
Hey, you know what I did like? Well, let's talk about Tippett. I love Tippett. Finally had some passion on the bench. He had a lot of passion from that. Maybe that'll strike something there. Anyway, hate to take away from.
But do you want to see the passion there, or do you want to see it, when Connor's violated himself?
I love how you say that, but yeah, no.
I don't actually think he was that pissed off and passionate. I think Skinner stepped on his toe.
Yeah, maybe
on the bench.
Yeah.
Brett, did he deserve the major? Want to break down that hit for us, buddy?
I did watch the replay a bunch of times. I think the player's head bouncing off the glass definitely had some bearing on it. Probably drew a lot of attention from both officials. And you're saying he was cut. That could be construed as an injury. I was just looking at the boarding penalty. You're going to like this one, Michael. It's right in the rule book. There is enormous amount of judgment involved in the application of this rule by referees. No kidding, hey?
Yeah.
The onus on the player applying the check to ensure his opponent is not in a defenseless position, and if so, must avoid or minimize contact. So, did he hit him and minimize contact? He didn't run him right through the boards, that's for sure. It could have been a lot worse. But I do have to think that bouncing his head off the glass definitely drew the eye. And does it say referee at his discretion may assess match penalty if in a judgment the player attempted or deliberately injured opponent by boarding? So that's not going to be coming up here for match. I know in all the other hockey, if there's an injury, we go to a major, but NHL, as you can see by previous calls, they don't usually call a lot of boarding penalties majors, even ones that they should, in my opinion. There's a lot of dangerous plays that happen.
So sorry, Brett.
Go down as 2 minutes or go down to 0 minutes.
Brett, does it says that's the NHL rule book says that it has to be like a deliberate intent, like intent to injure is what draws the match penalty?
For match penalty, yes. Major based on degree of violence of the impact match with the boards. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't get a match. He just got major and game misconduct is what I saw on the box score.
Sorry.
Yeah. And this is one of the ones where if you get a major, you're automatically also given the gate.
Okay.
So I don't know.
That, yeah.
The thing that kind of bothers me is Dursa. He kind of said it like, so this guy's head.
Oh, Dursa bothers me too.
Yeah.
Sing to the choir.
His head bounces off the boards. You got to think that factors into the major, and his head is cut, but he's back out to start the power play and to score. I mean, what are we doing with this concussion thing? Like, what is the criteria to be put down the tunnel and in the dark room for 10 minutes? I mean, like,
well, the only time I ever saw that was on Connor McDavid. That's
but he held his own mouth.
Yeah.
So like,
I great point, Brett. Good.
What is that? Like, I don't get it at all.
Where do you draw that line? Hey, well, you said it. Apparently, it's the judgment of officiating, right? So,
and I mean, as far as Michael said, consistency, and I know it's always a problem, and it's a problem in NHL and all the way down to whatever leagues you play in. You have so many referees. I mean, those guys are all professionals, so they should be a little better than me and you, but you still have, I don't know how many full-time refs do they have working 30-team league. I mean, they got to have 40 guys at least. Like, there's so many different guys out there every night. It's never going to be the same ever until you can get a robot. Like, it's just never going to happen. But I mean, in the same game, we should probably have a little better consistency, which we sometimes don't see.
Well, robots could call balls and strikes. Robots can't call hockey. That's the fastest game that has a billion different starting points and so many moving parts and catalysts, right? They better be better than you and me. Well, you and me have reffed on the same ice together, and we've both worn a red band on each of our arms, and Jesus, they better be better than you and me. Hebert's given McDavid match penalties that I can't stand him sometimes, constantly running McDavid out of town. That's the problem with these podcasters in Edmonton.
I don't see anything more coming from that, though. I mean, 5 in a game, I don't think he's going to be up on anything else.
Great segue. Okay, so you don't think there'll be anything? No fine even?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe a fine. I don't even think that. I think getting it called in the game, the NHL player safety puts a lot of emphasis on what the call was in the game. You know, like if there was no call in the game, then maybe there would be a hearing and maybe there would be a fine or a 1-game suspension. But since he got a 5 and he got kicked out with, 7 minutes left or so?
6 and change.
I mean, I think they'll take that as you kind of serve. You got your 5, the other team got a power play, you missed the rest of the game. I think they'll take that into consideration, and I wouldn't expect to see anything extra come out of it.
I think players.
So let's pretend for a second that you're the NHL safeties, George Peros. What would you do here?
Well, I think player safety. Looks at the.
Grow up.
I think they look at the aftermath. And the fact that Kemp was out on the first shift, nothing's going to happen from player safety here. No.
Well, let's be honest. Peros calls his friends up and says, "Hey, what do you guys think? Is this guy in the club or not?" Right? Like it's just hate it. But so Brett, there are 46 NHL officials this year. 10 of them though are minor league refs on NHL contracts, so they really play no games or call any games. A couple of them, there's 4 that are on NHL contracts that haven't called a single game, and it looks to be about 5 of them that have called up to 14 games in their career. So the top most experienced ref in the league right now, 2 are Kevin Pollock and Mark Jeanette.
Okay. Well, I'd like to shift gears a little bit here. I'll take a pause for a second just to see if Chad Graham has had a heart attack or able to get his fingers on his back on his keyboard.
Should I read off Chad Graham?
Yeah, let's.
Obviously, he thinks my saying McDavid deserved the penalty. He says, "You guys get fines too?" ? For saying how it is with officiating. Suggesting.
Wait, we're talking about Chad Graham, Dustin Schwartz's biggest fan here, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Go
Chad
on.
again. Bias. Fuck you, Bettman. Bias. BS. Dash. It's
not an episode's gone by where we don't get a "fuck you, Bettman" text. Let's be honest.
Officiating. Here's this one specifically for Brett. Officiating in the NHL is not kept up with the NHL game. Fuck it. Throw 7 more refs out there. He also says fuck Schwartz too. That's it.
There it is. There it is.
Recent.
On a tee for him there.
So
Anything else from the listeners for Brett?
I can't get through Dash
that you can read
or through Chad's comments, but
his tirade and oil blowout. Well, if you get there, we'll come back to it. Just let me know. Brett, recently you did a bang up job writing an article for heavyhockey.com.
He did an all right job.
All right job.
Yeah.
Hey, he's a referee. All right
right.
is about as good as we're going to get.
That's right.
You know, if you don't notice him, he's doing his job. And I'd say that's
Good
an article
point.
we barely noticed. Just kidding, buddy. No, I thought you did a great job. You know, maybe for the listeners, do you want to give us a little bit of a recap on you know, the bite from Mr. Lemieux on Mr. Tkachuk and how you thought that went down and how the league handled it?
Oh, we just lost him like that. Apparently, he didn't like what you had to say.
Oh, boom. Hey,
That's
just
it.
like that.
Oh, he's back now. Oh, it's messed up my screen.
Thought you hung up. I thought you hung up on me. Or I thought you'd had enough of Hebert because he was running McDavid out of town.
Wow. All right. What happened, Brett? You're like, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I thought I was here the whole time.
Well, you knocked
My
off
screen
for a
never
minute.
changed.
Mine did. You left.
Yeah, I lost you too, but that's okay. You know, sometimes referees disappear on the ice. So obviously you heard the question.
Yeah.
Biting.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever had to call a biting in my own career, which is probably a good thing. I mean, I don't know what to say about it other than like it's just weird. Like I get like if the guys are rolling around on the ice and guys' hands are in your face, you might be not too happy about that, but I don't know if you can go to biting a guy so hard that you break his skin, which seems is what happened here. So, I mean, I think obviously a suspension and 5 games. I don't know. I mean, it's not as dangerous as some of these check from behinds and headshots that you see out there as far as injury. But I mean, for me, I think it could have went more, but I don't know how their system works as far as their union and stuff. I mean,
they don't know how
you might only be able to start. You might only be able to start at 5. I know in my work, we're in unions and stuff. There's a lot of things the company might want to do to certain people, but they're protected, you know, by their group that they got to start at the bottom and work their way up. Everyone gets their own slaps on the wrist, 4 or 5 of them before they can be dealt with. So, I mean, I don't know if that plays in here, if they can just start at 5. For your first time or something like that. But I mean, I would have liked to see more. I mean, I think if it would have went more, he probably would have appealed it, or, you know, how that goes. So maybe 5 was the right. He just kind of took the 5 games and decided that was enough. But yeah, biting, I don't know. Biting and spitting. I've called spitting a few times in my career, and that's a pretty bad one too. That's pretty bad, especially now.
That's what I was just going to say. All the stinky mitts and all the two-handers and all the punches and sucker punches and spear to the nuts that you see in hockey. It's funny how spitting and biting always jump out as the 2 worst things, eh, Brett?
I just want to know, like,
you can
biting,
run a guy from the boards.
What a game!
Punch a guy in the face.
Is a tendency? Is the tendency to bite though? Is that anybody know? Is that genetic or is it like?
Well, it runs in the family. Let's be honest. I mean, Claude Lemieux bit Jim Poplinski back in 1986, so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there. I don't think. Durso, why don't you pretend that you're George Peros again, and what would you do there with that type of disciplinary assignment for Mr. Lemieux?
I just got to say that, like, when Michael was talking about Chad's, comments, I listened to them all, and I heard Chad saying them in Dennis Lemieux's voice from a movie that Lachansky still hasn't seen yet, Slapshot. Yeah, I don't know, but biting's got to be up there with kicking. Like, just 2 things that don't belong in the game, as far as I'm concerned.
Coming from the guy who tried to take his skate off and stab somebody with it.
Only on Halloween. Yeah, no, I think 5 games is probably about right, because I don't think Lemieux's really, a notorious offender here, but it's just something you don't want to see. Like, I don't know, that biting, like who does that? Like, yeah, okay, Claude Lemieux, Ken Linsman, like who's on this list here? Who's done this?
Brad Marchand will lick you, or is that a different list?
Yeah, it's a different list, but
That's a different list.
Same.
That's a different list.
They don't have licking in the rule book. I kind of looked. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not in there. That's good. Well, Mr. Hebert, I get the impression that Dursa doesn't mind a little nibble here and there, but maybe the truth hurts. Anyways, what are your thoughts on that, Hebert?
Hey, 5 games, and the guy's sort of tagged with this biting incident forever. Yeah, I mean, you know what? There's worse for him that's come out of this than this biting, and Brady Tkachuk knew exactly what he was doing and knew what to say, right? Like, he's obviously talked to other guys about Lemieux before he said those words. And, that's the kind of thing now he's tagged with, right? Like, I think there's a lot of truth to what, some of the players have come out and said, and which is nobody, wants this kid on their team, right? And so
it's a 4-team pattern, right, from Manitoba all the way through, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you know what? I suspect he'll get 5 games, but he's gonna have his career's changed now because of it, right?
Yeah.
Like would you want to see him on the Oilers anytime soon? No.
Yeah, you get put on that list with Matt Cook and whoever else is on there when you start doing shit like that.
Yeah, that's to me is the worst thing for him. But the 5 games, yeah, it's not enough. I mean, they gotta. I think Luchansky, you're on to something for a change, which is probably. There's some type.
You had to put that in there so you couldn't record a compliment.
That's right. There's some type of union thing happening, or what? I mean, how else? I mean, you got to do something on the slew foots. Do an official's take on PK Subban's slew footing.
Yeah.
Right. Like how
Slew
many?
ban.
Like how many does this guy get away with? Or well, and this. Actually, you just do a article on slew footing in general, because it seems to be the one that people get away with the most. Tkachuk ruined our Oilers D-man's career pretty much from the start. Game 1.
Snapped his femur.
Yeah, like, and Tkachuk came out of junior with 2 suspensions from slew footing, but he did, like, is it a thing where they seem to care about, I don't know. And then you look at, I don't know, the whole thing needs to be revamped, and there just doesn't seem to be any desire from the players union or the NHL to change how they do player safety. So, as fans, we continuously get pissed off and upset, and when the players, something bad happens to them, they seem to get pissed off. But the reality is nobody's talking about it at the top level, right? Everybody seems to be, saying nothing, right? Like,
yeah.
So,
it almost feels to me like the slew foot is something that you can hide. Like you can be deceitful with it, because you can make it look like, you can't hide a knee on knee hit. You can't hide a 2-hander. You can't really hide a cross check. Brett, do you think that I'm onto something here? Do you think that, PK Subban or any of these other guys that are doing this often, do you think they're doing it because they can?
I think slew foots are hard to catch as an official. So a lot of times they're away from the play if they're really dirty, and so you're not looking in the spots where they're happening, and you just hear a big crash or some guy goes down, and then you look and it's too late. Some of these ones, though, on these replays are right with the puck and the puck carrier. But yeah, you're right. It is hard to tell if is it a slew foot? Is his foot just there? And then sometimes he doesn't move his foot.
Exactly.
His leg is stationary, but he uses his arm and, pulls the guy back over his leg, which is still also a slew foot as well.
That's right.
But they are hard to catch a lot of times because of, you're right. It's very tough to see out there. And it's one of the most dangerous things that can really hurt guys. And so there's pretty serious penalties. I'd have to look up the NHL one, but in Hockey Canada, there's either I believe they added 4 minutes and a game misconduct or a match. And I think the determining factor was if the player who's doing the slew footing is moving when they do it, basically.
Oh, yeah. I think, the thing with the NHL and hockey in general is they try to get rid of these things early. And then at the NHL level, they expect that, you've spent your whole career up to this point where that was illegal. It's out of your system. Away you go. We're not going to worry about it. But it just doesn't go away like that. Like these guys. Although Subban's an interesting case because this seems to be like a relatively new thing. And I heard one of his... he's friends with the former ref there, and apparently
Tim
he
Peel.
said, and apparently he said something like Subban had suggested that he doesn't know, like he's kind of admitted that it's a part of his game now, and he doesn't know where it came from. Now I may be misquoting, so I shouldn't say shit, but the reality is it is part of his game right now. And I don't recall it being this bad in the past. It just, this year, it seems to be like night after night you hear about something new.
So it looks like
Michael.
the NHL rulebook has slew footing, and the only penalty attached to an actual slew footing call is match penalty.
Yeah, there you go.
So there is no minor for little trip slew footing. Like if you're going to call it a slew foot, not a trip, then it's straight to match. And so maybe that's why
we'll probably see
hesitant.
McDavid get one in the next couple of weeks here sometime.
Maybe
There you go.
Maybe that's
Michael
why
Hubert driving McDavid out of town.
That's right. Yeah. McDavid.
Maybe that's why referees might be hesitant to call because it's such a serious match penalty. Like if it's just all those PK ones, they're kind of like, oh, did he do it? Did he not do it? It's not like he just like skated by a guy on the blue line that was just standing there and fucking kicked his legs out from behind. Like they're all with the play and did he do it? Did
the
he
puck
not?
and the other player are all arriving at the same time. And what a coincidence that my knee was there.
Let's just give him 2 minutes for tripping, or but they don't want to go to this match penalty because like match penalty is a serious call, right? So I mean, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's always tough.
There is a bit of a bit of an epidemic though. Like Brad Marchand gets suspended for his slew foot. PK's working on number 5 for his slew foot. Player safety says, "Well, that's unsafe. Here's a $2,500 fine," and away you go. Like,
well, Marchand's a bad example though. Like that guy gets away with not getting more of his suspension only because of years between infractions, right? Like like he just gets enough infractions over a period of time that they're not allowed to use that history in his suspension criteria when he definitely should be suspended for more games. Like he's got a history, it just doesn't count, right? Like it's
damn union again.
Yeah, damn union.
I think now it's like a year and your record's wiped clean. Before it used to take a little while. Now it doesn't take very long at all.
It should never be wiped clean. Like, let's be real here, right? Like, this is not, if you're...
Brad Marchand doesn't go back to Boston and do community service and pick up some garbage in the ditch and get his record wiped. Come on, boys.
Oh, man.
Well, and I feel like
hockey.
That union, NHLPA, they do a really good job at protecting the, like, I don't know what you want to call it, 5 or 10% of players that are doing all the terrible things, and the 90% of players, why aren't they... Like, what do those players think when they're getting run from behind and then the guy who ran them is getting protected and they're not being protected safely? I don't know. It seems like the majority of players would want to see it the other way with stiffer fine, more dollar amount on fines and more game suspensions. Don't you think?
Yeah, no, I think the PA has got it backwards. They protect fringe players. And the stars are the ones that get punished. It's ass backwards.
Yeah, I would agree. Bob Stauffer is often quoted, at least I certainly seem to hear him reference it a lot, not only during his calls during the game, but on his radio show as well. And he's constantly, yammering, pleading, begging with NHL referees to stop being game managers and just call the infractions. Brett Luchansky, what do you have to say to Bob Stauffer when he says that referees should stop trying to manage games and just call the infractions?
Everybody wants that until it's 5 in a row against your team, and then you don't want it anymore.
That's right. Because guys like Dashney are on the bench going, Luchansky, there's 2 teams out there, buddy.
That's right.
Call it both ways, Luchansky. Right? So why don't you just keep calling the infractions then?
Last night, it was 9-1. There was about 3 minutes left in the game, and there was an obvious trip against the team that was losing 9-1, and I called it, and I was getting it from the bench. It was 9-1. Don't call that. It's 9-1. What do you want? Which way do you want
not think that that's sewn into the DNA of hockey culture, though, Brett? Like, do you not think that we yell that from the bench because that's the hockey we watch? Like, that's the hockey we know. That's referees manage games, right? So now when you're not managing it for me, and when it comes to referees, players want it both ways. They never have it their way. They either want the ref to manage the game when it's not being managed for them, or when they're not having infractions called, they want their infractions called. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I like this guy.
Hey, what was the reason?
Unless I have skates on, then you hate me.
What was the reason they canned Tim Peel?
Because he managed a game.
He got caught. You can't say it on the mic. It made him look bad.
Sewn into the DNA culture of hockey, but just do not mention it. Good point, Terps.
It's the best comedy the NHL's ever provided.
Fire the guy for it.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, way to ref a game exactly how 17,000 referees have refereed it before you. You're fired.
Yeah,
and it's basically what the NHL wants, because if they don't want the games refed the way they are, then why don't they change it? But they don't. So they obviously do like it, and the GMs think it's fine, and Colin Campbell thinks it's fine, and until those guys are gone or somebody wants to change it, it's not going to change.
That's the question. I mean, who's behind that, right? Like, to me, and I mentioned it earlier, is the players don't seem to give a shit. Otherwise, they would put up more, of an effort against this stuff. Like, they have a players' union for a reason. But I don't know. I mean, at some point, we as fans maybe need to not care as much about shit like that, because it doesn't seem like the guys that are running the league care. So, that includes...
And it's hard as Oiler fans, Michael, when you got McDavid on your team.
Oh,
right? Like, hockey fans
agree.
can have that opinion in general, but we kind of have this different perspective from oil country, right? So, Michael, you're a 6'5" hulking center and a Bobby Holik type that likes to throw the stick around out there.
Yeah, that's exactly
5 nights
me.
a week. Yeah. Do you think you would like your referees to manage a game or to just call the infractions?
Well, damn it, I've never actually had a real penalty called against me, so I mean, come on, ref.
If I didn't have 400 PIMs a season, I could say that, but I think that would be a little.
There is no way that was hooking. No freaking way.
You hooked me. You hooked me in the Oilerslive Cup. You deserve that.
There we go.
Which Luchansky wouldn't know because he was still at home in bed, but that's another story.
Well, I think I might have had COVID. I came back from Vegas, so I was patient 0.
You had the Vegas flu.
Yeah. Every time I go to Vegas, I've come home with COVID.
Yeah. And an empty wallet. But hey.
And an empty wallet. All right.
Yeah.
Any final comments on that, Mike? Michael?
Yeah, no, I just, until the players start complaining about it a little bit more. Like, I know McDavid, regardless of what Tortorella says, I think McDavid needs to say more. I think Tippett needs to say more. I think they need to be louder about it, right? Because I think, everybody's worried that if they're louder, then they'll get more penalties called against them, right? But I think there's just so many stats in this league and so much video, right, that it can't possibly be any worse, right, than it is now. Like, it's just, so take the fines. We've argued in oil country for a long time that once in a while the coaches need to take a fine once in a while because it's been that bad, right? And
I mean, it's gonna come off the money on the board out of the players' fund anyways. Like,
well,
how messed up is it that a coach gets fined? It's $25K, but if you slew foot a guy, it's $5K on a guy that makes $10 million a season. Like, it's so messed up. $25K for words in the press conference.
Here, the cartel that is the NHL, right? If you speak out against the NHL, right? Like, if you speak out against the NHL, you get fined for it. In any free world country, like, they call that like tyranny, right? They call that a dictatorship, and it's crazy that the NHL just allows it to happen that way, and that people accept that. But either way, we need more out of Dave Tippett, like the passion that we saw tonight. Whether somebody stepped on his foot or not, like, I want to see that kind of passion night after night, and I think he'll get more out of the players if he does, right? Like, if that's why I know you like everybody. Tortorella is public enemy number one in Edmonton right now because of the McDavid comments. But look, I love Tortorella for a lot of reasons. He sticks up for his players, right? Like, the reason he's such an asshole in the pressers is because he doesn't want to say anything bad about his players to the press. He'll say that shit in the dressing room, right? Like, if he thought you played like shit, he'll tell you in the dressing room. But if the world knows you played like shit, he'll just say it in a press conference too. But for the most part, he keeps that shit out of the press and sticks it into the dressing room. And I think he gets good results from his team. And most of the players that you've heard that have played for him love him.
He tried to fight the entire Flames roster in their dressing room.
I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that.
And he's like 5'7". Like, Tortorella's got a big voice, but he is not a big man. You mentioned the tyranny and dictatorship. Sometimes those words remind me a little bit about the silent owner here at Heavy Hockey and how he treats us. But on a lighter note, I saw a penalty tonight that I've never seen before, Brett. A coincidental holding call. To me, I felt like that was, I don't know, basically an infraction for a mutual hug. Have you ever seen that before?
You know what that is? That's they were both kind of doing stuff, and I can't tell who was holding who. And I already put my arm up, so fuck, I'm gonna take them both.
They're both annoying me. Go sit down.
Yeah, you know what?
Because I saw the replays of that one. Is that right? That one, and I think they were both guilty. So I mean, it depends on the ref. Some refs would call both, and some might just say, "I'm going to cancel them both out. I'm just going to call nothing."
But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he knew there was a call there to be made, puts his hand up, and then decides sort of midway through, well, both guys, yeah. Like it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of hugs from Zach Stortini and Donald Brashear, but not necessarily a mutual coincidental hug penalty. What did you think of the hug there, Durst?
I personally thought Nurse got steer wrestled to the
ice. Do you want me to give you a hug?
yeah.
I mean, he looks like a lovable guy, so I can't blame Brown for hugging him. But,
I think that's a homer view of it. Honestly, if I look at that a couple times, I think they're both guilty there. But to Dash's point, like I think you call a penalty there, and who are you going to call, right? Like, you're calling them for hugging each other. So the right call would have been no call. But in this case, he put his arm up, I think, to Brett's point.
Dash just said to call all the infractions.
just you, Brett, you speak when spoken to, okay? Like, you're not managing.
We haven't come to you for a review in this moment, okay?
Right.
Turn your fucking mic off.
That's right. I didn't hit the mute button fast enough. I saw his lips open, and I didn't hit the mute button fast enough. Damn it.
Tim Peel only had you to hit his mute button.
Oh man, yeah. No, I honestly, I think Nurse was as guilty as Brown there. Here's one that I thought McDavid got away with what we would call a slash most nights and get pissed off. In the corner, he knocked the stick out of the hand of one of the guys there, and he got away with one. But as homers, we don't say anything. It's just a good hard hockey play. And McDavid got away with one and then paid for it dearly a couple minutes later.
Once again, Michael Hebert running McDavid out of town. Dursa, did you want to jump in and maybe try and keep McDavid here with the Oilers?
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's been a rough show, Michael. I can't believe you're doing this to us.
I love the man. I got 97.
I know it's late out east,
buddy.
I got
the 97 tattooed on my ass. Right there. Here, just hold on. I'll show you guys.
We interrupt this proceedings to
yeah.
I thought honestly,
2 minutes for illegal equipment.
Just
I thought
broke the internet.
Broberg, when he got his tripping call, he actually high sticked the guy on the way down too. He was lucky he didn't get 2 penalties there.
You know what I hate?
I did see that.
This is completely off. Like, yeah, that Broberg tripping call, when I first saw it, I'm yelling, like, that's not a effing penalty. And I hate being wrong when they go to the replay. And I'm like, yeah, shit, that's it. That's it. Damn it.
I tell you this, if you get a minor and it's on delay, to get a second minor before the whistle goes again, holy shit, you got
to damn near murder somebody.
Fucking head off. Because I think the threshold for the second minor goes way up.
Yeah, or on top of that, Brett, imagine if you were shorthanded and that happened, right? You'd almost be able to chop 2 guys' legs off there. You get so much leeway on a situation like that.
When a team's down 5-on-4 to go to that 5-on-3, you got that threshold goes up again, which goes against everything that we were saying before about just call the penalties as they happen. But I mean, in every level of hockey, that to get to a 5-on-3, the second penalty has to be like for sure.
Yeah.
Like, let's play hypothetical here. Let's play hypothetical. The Dirty Birds are shorthanded. Their star defenseman, Dash in the Park, is obviously out there killing the penalty because he's in there for all situations. And there's a delayed penalty on Dustin Nielsen because he's, probably tripped somebody on his way from not back checking. And you've got your arm in the air. What type of infraction do I have to commit to actually get you to call another penalty when we're shorthanded and you already have your arm in the air?
Oh, of something that's worth a major.
In the NHL,
which you probably would do.
In the NHL, it almost seems like the 5-on-3s come from when they're already shorthanded, and then somebody shoots the puck over the glass. That seems to be the only way. That seems to be the only way you get a 5-on-3 now.
Yeah, that's a good point. What were you gonna say there, Brett? You'd have called what on me?
Oh no, but I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it's just, it doesn't even matter what hockey we're talking about. We're talking about the best league in the world, or we're talking about Dash's Div 10 friggin' beer league team, and it's in our
11.
all of our minds and all of our how hockey goes. Like me too, as a referee, like I'm reffing nothing games on Wednesday night at midnight or whatever, but it's still just the way it is. I don't know how to change.
For sure,
it.
we're only kind of on the topic, but I absolutely
to game management right now. He's admitting to game management. Damn it.
Yeah, you heard it. You heard it here first.
It's pretty obvious that's what's going on, isn't it?
That's right. Well, hey, we're only kind of on the topic of you refereeing in games that I've played in, but I'm extremely self-centered and I love hearing stories about myself. So what do you remember about the games with the Dirty Birds, and why did you put me in the penalty box as many times as you did?
I don't remember much. I just remember the Dirty Birds getting rolled a lot.
That's fair. I am their top defenseman.
So they got bumped down to, I don't know what div they're in now, 12 or 13 or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know why I led the team.
You guys weren't playing for a while there, I think, right? That team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we took the year off when COVID first hit there. But yeah, it probably says something when I lead the team from the back end in points every year, but I'm still at least a double digit in minus. So, you might think I got my nickname Dash from my last name, but it's because I'm Dash 30 at the end of every year. I've also refed a few games with, what's that, Brett?
What's a good save percentage on the Dirty Birds? 750?
Oh, 500. I think if you get to 6, you're probably getting signed to a 10-year contract. If you can get a 600 save percentage and play the puck, man, if I don't have to back check to go behind the net to get the puck and a goalie can give it to me, I like double my ice time in a night.
Yeah, it goes the same for refs when there's an icing. That goalie goes out and gets it and shoots it up for me. Oh, he's my favorite guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. You get away with
kidding,
a little
enough.
bit more.
Enough about me. Anything else from our texters, listeners? Anything else you want to touch on there from the?
No, we had a little bit.
There's
There's a lot of little chats here, but there's only one that sticks out. Chad Graham, about 10 minutes ago, says, "Oh my!"
It only sticks out because there's 45 messages with a red-faced emoji. But
oh my God, Michael, you are my hero. That's
I think you made that up.
I'm not even making that shit up. It's legit. You just have to go. I will have to go back in the game tape and see what I said at that point in time. Probably something brilliant, but anyway, there you go.
The most brilliant things you've ever said. Well, while you're on mute, my friend.
It's true. True story.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? We've probably called enough majors, match penalties, chewed off enough fingers for one night. I'm going to give Durst the last word because that's his deal. Bear, what do you got for us here to end off episode 27 with our referee on staff?
Yeah. Well, I you know what? I'll tell you this. A couple things. One is Flames lost tonight to Vegas, which is nice. That's good. If you had told me at the beginning of the year, the season, or in the off season, that at 16-7, I'd be pissed off with the Oilers, for losing a game. For their first 2 in a row that they've lost, I'd probably be a pretty happy guy. For as mad as tonight
until
made
I told
me,
you the Flames were right.
That's
there
right. Yeah. And you know what? That's probably part of it. That's probably part of what makes this even hurt a little bit more is the Flames are actually having a good season together. And it's the way they're doing it versus the way we're doing our season that kind of pissed me off. But at the same time, you know what? This is the kind of hockey that. I love to watch, and we've been pretty lucky this year. So, look, Tippett's got us where we are, as much as I'm critical of him. But, we've got 5 more games left in this homestand.
Yep.
Nurse is back. I expect a little bit more of this team than we saw tonight. And sometimes, getting a little bit of adversity like this is a good thing. If you're going to have it, it's best to have it when your guys are sitting in the press box. So all in all, I'm about 90% happy and 10% furious with what goes on, and the officiating. Right. Well, is the officiating? It's nothing.
Well, we started the 6-game homestand 0-1, Michael. Where do you see us at the end of the Columbus game in that 6-game stretch?
Yeah, so I see that's good. Good question. So we've got L.A. We obviously lost to, and then we play Minnesota next, Boston, Carolina, Toronto, and then Columbus.
Tough teams, big teams.
They are tough. You know what? This is big. I do think the Oilers are going to come out from this good. In fact, this is the kind of home stretch you want against really good competition. Right, I'm going to say 4-2, and if we lose a game, I suspect it'll probably be Boston.
Wow. Okay. Well, we play well against Boston, so that's not what I would have thought I'd hear out of you, and that means we go 4-1 in the next 5. So that's an optimistic view. Appreciate that, Brett. Where do you see the Oilers after the 6-game homestand? What do you think the record will be after those 6, as far as those 6 games go? And welcome to the network. And any last thoughts as we close off straight off the pipe?
I'll go with 3-2-1 total.
Okay.
And I think that the refs were great tonight, and they got that dirty guy McDavid for his terrible hit, and he should be suspended for 5 games.
Well, they made Hebert happy because he's running him out of town.
And
all right, Dursa.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for having me. My little blurbs on the website. I look forward to doing more.
It's been a pleasure to have you, and you've been a friend of mine before you were ever on the network. So, I was maybe one of the happiest guys to see you here, buddy. So welcome to the team. Dursa, you annoy the shit out of me. You're a tire fire. But I got to give you the last word.
Nice knowing you, Lachansky, but we're never having you again after running McDavid out of town with Hebert. So see you guys. No, thanks for coming on. I always appreciate your insider look from a Stripes aspect, and now you've got some material to use against me like you do against Hebert all the time. I think this week is a big week. It's a big test, and I said last week we were going to run the table, so I was wrong there. So I'm not going to give any predictions here because I don't want to jinx anything and get us into a spot here where we're starting to, slide back to a 500 team instead of a, upper echelon NHL team where I think this team needs to be.
Stop it right there. This is the type of shit that pisses me off. You know that? I give you a top 3, you give me a top 10. I give you a top 10, you give me a top 30. I asked you for a record. Don't skirt the goddamn question. All right? You're on a hockey podcast. We got 6 games on this homestand. We've lost the first one. I don't give a shit if you're Nostradamus. What's the record?
We beat the Wild. We beat the Bruins. We lose to the Hurricanes. We beat the Leafs, and we beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. How's that?
5-1. So you got Hebert's case of homerism. I've interrupted your last word far too many times, but Jesus, man, you're just under my skin tonight. What else do you got to say?
Keep your sticks on the ice and keep reaching for the stars. Go Oilers, go.
It's a wrap. Go Oilers.